Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jonasz Rewiński. Two Russian fighter jets have violated the safety zone of a Polish-owned Petro Baltic drilling platform in the Baltic Sea. The incident took place shortly after three Russian military aircraft breached Estonia's airspace. Now, unlike last week's massive drone incursion, this time around Russia breached Poland's exclusive economic zone, not the state border. The incident involving the gas and oil platform owned by Poland's energy giant Orlen occurred only several hours after three Russian fighter jets violated the Estonian skies. The Russian aircraft entered Estonia's airspace and remained there for 12 minutes over the Gulf of Finland in a violation described by Estonian authorities as unprecedentedly brazen. The incursion prompted Estonia's allies in NATO, Italy, Finland and Sweden to scramble their jets and intercept the Russian aircraft. As a result, Tallinn requested that the member states hold consultations over the next steps under the treaty's Article 4. Estonia is the third country in 2 weeks to report a Russian airspace violation, with Poland first reporting such an incident, followed by Romania. US President Donald Trump said reports that Russia violated Estonia's airspace could mean, and I quote, "big trouble." The US leader told journalists at the White House that he was not happy about it and was due to be briefed on Friday's incursion.
Russian jets entered Estonia's airspace today for 12 minutes. Do you see that as a threat to NATO?
Well, I'm going to have to look at it. They're going to be briefing me in a short while, so I'll let you know about it tonight or tomorrow.
What's your take in general? Just being
I don't love it. I don't love it. I don't love it when that happens. It could be big trouble, but I'll let you know later. They're going to brief me in about an hour.
At least one person has been killed and more than a dozen injured after Russian forces launched a large-scale drone and missile assault on cities across Ukraine early on Saturday. In the eastern Dnipropetrovsk region, one person was killed and 13 injured, according to the regional governor. Air raid sirens were sounded across the country for about 90 minutes before ending at 7 a.m. local time. The paper reports that near Kiev, airstrikes caused fires in 3 towns, destroying buildings and vehicles. Poland's operational command posted on X that Polish and Allied aircraft were scrambled to ensure the safety of Polish airspace after Russia targeted cities in western Ukraine near the border with Poland. The European Union is pushing ahead with new sanctions on Russia. The package must be approved by all EU member states, however, including Moscow-friendly Hungary and Slovakia. Franciszek Pilis has the story.
After a call to action from President Donald Trump, the European Union has moved ahead with plans to yet again tighten economic sanctions on Russia in response to Moscow's refusal to engage in meaningful peace negotiations with Ukraine. The proposed 19th sanctions package is one of the toughest yet, targeting the source of Moscow's income used to fund the Russian war machine.
So we are banning imports of Russian LNG into European markets. It is time to turn off the tap.
Following the trail of Russian energy exports, Chinese and Indian entities involved in Russian trade will also be hit.
We are adding more chemicals, metal components, salts and ores to our export bans and tighter export controls on entities from Russia as well as China and India.
The EU is also likely to accelerate its ban on Russian energy imports by 1 year to late 2026, despite Hungary and Slovakia still being tied to Moscow's oil supplies, importing as much as 8.7 million tons of Russian crude oil in 2024, according to some sources. Russia's shadow fleet of oil tankers is also being targeted, with the EU sanctioning more than 100 additional vessels. The EU's latest move follows the calls of President Donald Trump to cut Russian oil imports and increase pressure on China and India. TVP World's editor-in-chief, Michał Broniatowski, says Europe is unlikely to fully meet Trump's demands for steep tariffs on both countries because it would be too disruptive for its economy.
Europe is not going to do it, so apparently trying to make President Trump happy. I don't think they will, because President Trump is producing his demands not in order to get Europe to impose tariffs against these two big countries because he knows they will never do it. He wants to delay his own decisions as long as possible.
Despite the previous 18 sanctions packages visibly impacting Russia's economy, some were able to avoid said sanctions through cryptocurrency transactions. Not anymore, as for the first time, the EU will also implement restrictive measures against cryptocurrency platforms. What was lacking from the list of sanctions are tourist visas for Russian citizens, an earlier proposal by some EU members. Russian opposition figure Yulia Navalnaya welcomed such an outcome.
Ursula von der Leyen stated that the new sanctions package will not include a ban on issuing visas to Russians. I appreciate that the European Commission authorities made a fair distinction between ordinary Russians and the regime.
Before these sanctions enter force, all 27 EU member states have to unanimously approve the package in the coming weeks. Hungary has stubbornly held onto Russian fossil fuels, as the country receives a discount on those purchases. As the Financial Times report, this has prompted the European Commission to aim for the release of 550 million euros in frozen funds to Hungary to gain Prime Minister Viktor Orbán's approval for a new package of sanctions on Russia, underlining the EU's commitment to have these sanctions enter force. For TVP World, Franciszek Pilis.
Poland said its border with Belarus will remain closed until Warsaw is satisfied that the current security issues have been resolved. The closure has annoyed Beijing, which sends billions of euros worth of goods into Europe through Russia and Belarus. Kazimierz Łysiak reports.
The Russian-Belarusian military exercises called Zapad 2025 have already concluded. But the Polish border crossings with Belarus still look like this. Nothing going in and nothing going out.
We said very clearly that this border is not closed for the duration of the Zapad drills, but in connection with the Zapad drills. That is, this border will be reopened when we are 100% sure that we are not threatened by any danger, any provocations.
And these crossings in Brześć-Terespol and Małaszewicze are significant not only for Poland, but also all of Europe. It's through here that China exports close to 3% of its goods to the EU, worth roughly 25 billion euros annually.
This 3% is important because pretty often these are goods that are more important, more expensive than those are transported by the sea, which is 97%, but cheaper or not worth enough to use the transport.
By keeping the border crossings closed, Poland can apply pressure on Belarus through one of its biggest partners in Beijing.
Undoubtedly, that's kind of pressure. We don't have much pressure to put on Belarus. We don't have any relationship with the government, so we are using the last resorts possible to, for example, improve the situation on the border.
And it's not the first time Poland has done this. When the regime of Alexander Lukashenko began sending more illegal migrants to storm the Polish borders earlier this year, an intervention from China decreased the intensity of these activities for some time. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski aims to pull off a similar move once again.
Regarding the Belarusian border, we are firm. If China helps us, as it once did, to stop Belarusian provocations, the border will be opened.
There's been a number of provocations from the Belarusian regime aimed at Poland in recent days, like the Russian drones violating Polish airspace from Belarus. Belarus has also been holding Polish activist Andrzej Poczobut in prison since 2021. For TVP World, I'm Kazimierz Łysiak.
Now, Donald Trump and his administration are putting pressure on the US media that they view as overly critical. Multi-billion-dollar lawsuits and threats of withdrawing broadcasting licenses are the latest shots in Trump's bitter feud with the country's media establishment, one that recently led to a well-known comedian being suspended. Piotr Miszczuk has more.
Counting or not counting gang violence? Great!
The high-profile assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk prompted American Vice President J.D. Vance to urge anyone who celebrates Kirk's murder to be reported to their employers.
If you celebrate Charlie Kirk's death, you should not be protected from being fired for being a disgusting person.
A website collecting reports of anti-Kirk extremism said it received more than 60,000 submissions. Such online activity led to many people getting fired, including teachers, firefighters and journalists.
Well, this is basically cancel culture run wild.
The most notable dismissal was that of Jimmy Kimmel, whose late-night show was indefinitely suspended for his monologue on Charlie Kirk. In it, he ridiculed Trump's reaction to Kirk's death and accused the MAGA crowd of using Kirk's assassination to score political points. Trump couldn't contain his contempt with the decision and suggested more media control is necessary.
They give me only bad publicity or press. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It will be up to Brendan Carr.
Kimmel's dismissal is widely attributed to pressure from Brendan Carr, head of the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC.
We can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Trump has also exerted pressure on media by slapping lawsuits, notably including a $15 billion defamation and libel lawsuit against the New York Times. Many outlets prefer to reach settlements.
The lawsuits are totally meritless. And yet, what happens is companies recognize that it is simpler to settle, less expensive to settle, because Trump is a master of drawing out lawsuits.
The Trump administration's big promise on the day of his inauguration was to protect freedom of speech.
It is the policy of the United States to ensure that no federal government officer, employee, or agent engages in or facilitates any conduct that would unconstitutionally abridge the free speech of any American citizen.
Conversely, Georgette Mosbacher, who served as U.S. ambassador to Poland under Trump's previous administration, intervened to support free media. This was when the American-owned private broadcaster TVN24 faced shutdown in 2021 amid a law limiting non-EU media ownership. But that move was purely transactional, according to experts.
The main reason why she did that was because she was protecting American interests, because TVN belonged to an American component.
But whether that would be the case now is dubious, experts say.
Frankly, I don't know if the American ambassador would come to the defense of TVN in this administration.
The US has of late slumped in the World Press Media Freedom Index, and current political pressure is unlikely to improve its ranking. For TVP World, I'm Piotr Miszczuk.
Poland's opposition is calling on Prime Minister Donald Tusk's government to move the imposing Russian embassy, which sits next to key government buildings, including the Defense Ministry, to a different location. Aisha Baci toured the area and has more.
Behind me stands one of Warsaw's most controversial diplomatic compounds, the Russian embassy. Its grounds are vast, and it is considered a relic from the Cold War era when Russian influence here was unquestioned. Now, Poland's main opposition party is demanding its relocation, arguing that it stands as a symbol of former Russian influence and that it stands steps away from key government buildings. In terms of sheer land size, it occupies more space than any other embassy in Warsaw. The Russian embassy stands on what were once the gardens of the Polish Defense Ministry, just 500 meters away. It is also roughly 650 meters from Belvedere Palace, a presidential residence, and not far from the office of the Prime Minister. This is one of Warsaw's prime locations. The debate goes beyond politics. In 2022, thousands of Warsaw residents participated in a mock referendum asking whether Poland should annex the embassy. In a move heavy with symbolism, the street in front of it was renamed Victims of Russian Aggression Avenue, following the full-scale invasion. But even if Parliament were to pass a resolution calling for the embassy's relocation, enforcing it could breach international law.
Under international law, embassies are protected by the Vienna Convention, which makes such a relocation far more complicated than simply passing a resolution.
However, Poland announced last May that it will close Russia's consulate in Krakow.
I took the decision to close down the Russian consulate in Krakow. This is because our Justice Ministry and security services have found proof that they were behind an act of arson in Poland a year ago.
But Warsaw is not alone in closing Russian diplomatic missions. In 2023, Germany ordered the closure of 4 out of 5 Russian consulates in its borders, although the process is still ongoing. For now, the embassy remains firmly in place, both as a symbol of the past and a legal challenge for the future. Reporting for TVP World, I'm Aisha Bacha.
And that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and please stay with us here on TVP World.